Have you ever felt it? That deep, unsettling sense that you are performing, that your life has become a stage, and you are desperately playing the role of someone strong, someone unshakable, someone who has it all figured out. This isn't the vulnerability of a soul laid bare. It is the raw, aching insecurity that masquerades as strength. It's a silent scream for validation, a desperate dance to convince the world, and, more importantly, to convince yourself that you are worthy. This is a sign that your spirit is leaking its divine energy, and the universe is sending you a profound message to come back home to your authentic self. If this deep truth resonates with the quietest corners of your being, if you've ever felt this exhaustion of the soul, then know you are not alone on this path of awakening. Your journey of reclaiming your power begins now. Let this message be a confirmation for you, and if it is, let the world know by liking, subscribing, and sharing your experience below. Your story is a beacon for others. So type, "I am ready to be real," to affirm your commitment to your higher self. Let's begin by deciphering the first subtle tremor of a spirit, disconnected from its source, the compulsive need to over-explain. Understand this universal law. Your words are not mere sounds. They are potent vessels of creative energy. They are the currency of your soul. When you make a decision, a choice, that is aligned with your inner truth, that decision carries its own vibrational weight. It is complete in its inception. Yet, the insecure man feels a gaping void following his own declaration. He rushes to fill that silence with a torrent of justifications, disclaimers, and explanations. He wraps his decisions in layers of bubble wrap, as if they were fragile glass, terrified they might shatter upon contact with another's opinion. You have seen this. In a boardroom, a man announces a new strategy and then, unprompted, spends the next 10 minutes nervously defending it, outlining every possible objection and preemptively answering it. His energy becomes scattered, pleading, almost apologetic. He speaks not to inform, but to be approved. He is not leading, he is begging for followers. He bleeds his personal power with every unnecessary syllable. This is not humility, it is a profound act of self-betrayal. It is a trembling need for reassurance that tells the world, "I do not trust my own voice to carry weight without your permission." And anyone who asks for permission has already forfeited their place at the table of sovereignty. When you feel this urge to over-explain, pause, breathe. Ask yourself a simple, piercing question. Who am I truly trying to convince? Them, or the doubting voice within me? True divine power is not verbose. It is quiet. It acts with a calm certainty that needs no external applause. It moves, and it allows others to interpret. In that space, in that charged silence, a mystery is born, and in that void, true authority grows like an ancient oak, deeply rooted and unshakable. Allow your actions to be your primary language. Let your choices speak with the thunderous power of a silent mountain. Do not dilute the potency of your decisions with a flood of anxious words. Stand in your truth, and let the world adjust to your frequency, not the other way around. This is the first step towards sealing the leaks of your vital energy and reclaiming your divine inheritance of quiet strength. Now, let us turn our attention to the second sign, a vibration so subtle it often goes unnoticed, the nervous laughter. Laughter should be the music of a soul set free, the overflow of genuine joy. But there is another kind of laughter, isn't there? It's a reflexive, apologetic chuckle that punctuates a sentence that didn't quite land. It's the soft, submissive laugh offered when someone interrupts you, a signal that you yield your space to them. It's the hollow grin that surfaces not from joy, but from a deep-seated fear. Watch closely in any room full of men, and you will see it. One makes a statement, a declaration of his truth, and another man laughs, not because anything was funny, but because the statement was bold, because it was assertive, because it created a momentary tension. That laugh is a white flag. It is the body's primal way of saying, "Don't attack me, I am harmless. My assertion was not a threat." This is not charm, it is submission. It is the energetic equivalent of a dog rolling onto its back, exposing its soft underbelly before the threat has even arrived. You must understand this. Your laughter teaches people precisely how to treat you. It sets the energetic contract for the interaction. If you laugh every time you assert yourself, every time you speak your truth, you are teaching them that your words are merely decorations, not declarations. You are signaling that your presence is filler, not force. Humor is a divine tool, a sword of light, but it must come from a place of control, not from a compulsion born of fear. The moment your smile becomes a shield, the moment your laughter becomes an apology, you have already lost the battle of presence. You have surrendered your spiritual ground. Think of the most powerful men you know, those who command respect without uttering a single demand. How often do they laugh nervously? Rarely, if at all. This isn't because they are cruel or lack warmth, but because they understand the profound cost of giving away their emotional energy so freely. Emotion is a sacred currency, and insecure men spend it recklessly, hoping someone will tip them with a scrap of validation. So, from this moment forward, let your laughter be a conscious choice. Let it erupt from a place of genuine amusement, not from a place of appeasement. Let it be the roar of a lion, not the whimper of a pup. Your laughter is a sacred sound. Reserve it for moments that truly deserve its light. This brings us to the third insidious habit that stains your presence with the frequency of need, the constant, ravenous seeking of validation. And I don't just mean the obvious kind, the desperate fishing for compliments, the compulsive checking of likes, the need for applause. I mean something far more subtle, a deeper, more insidious craving for simple agreement that haunts your every interaction. You say something, and then your eyes immediately scan the room, gauging reactions, searching for a nod, a murmur, any form of approval. You pause mid-sentence, an unspoken question hanging in the air, waiting for the other person to fill the silence with their consent. You live not to speak your truth, but to be confirmed by the truths of others. And in doing so, you cease to be a man. You become a mirror, a hollow vessel that can only reflect what is projected onto it. A man speaks with conviction. He knows his words will disturb someone, somewhere. He expects it, and in a way, he welcomes it. Why? Because he is not looking to belong to every tribe. He is looking to be understood by those who can handle the full frequency of his being, by those who can handle him. But the insecure man is an addict, and his drug is reassurance. Every decision must be ratified by a committee. Every opinion must be softened and sanded down to avoid the slightest chance of disapproval. This desperate need for consensus slowly dissolves any edge, any spark of individuality he once had. You do not need to be agreed with. Hear that again. You do not need to be agreed with. You need to be respected. And those two paths often diverge. One is the path of the chameleon, constantly changing colors to blend in. The other is the path of the eagle, soaring on its own currents, magnificent in its sovereignty. Being respected means you are willing to stand in your own truth, even if you stand there alone. It means your sense of self-worth is not outsourced to the fleeting opinions of others. It is an internal anchor, forged in the fires of self-acceptance. The insecure man is terrified of this solitude, for he has not yet learned to enjoy his own company. He seeks a chorus to drown out the silence of his own soul. So, the challenge is this. Can you state your opinion without a single upward inflection at the end? Can you make a choice and not immediately seek a co-signer? Can you allow someone to disagree with you without feeling a primal urge to modify your position or apologize for it? This is where your spiritual armor is truly forged. It is in these small moments of standing firm that you signal to the universe that you are ready to hold your own power, that you are no longer a mirror, but a source of light in your own right. Let's now explore a deeply misunderstood concept, vulnerability, and the fourth mistake that arises from its misapplication, oversharing your emotions without a shred of strategy. There is a pervasive modern myth that tells you vulnerability is always a sign of strength. This is a dangerous half-truth. Vulnerability is strength only when it is a conscious and deliberate choice, offered from a position of power, not when it is an uncontrollable leak from a wounded soul. Most men pour their insecurities out in the name of honesty or authenticity. They confess their deepest fears, their doubts, and their weaknesses far too early, far too often, and far too fully. They do this hoping that by being raw, they will earn intimacy and connection. But in truth, what they are doing is handing their sword to a stranger and praying it won't be used against them. This is not courage. It is a preemptive surrender. It is an unspoken plea. Here are all my weaknesses. Please don't hurt me. You do not need to hide what you feel, but you must learn when, how, and with whom to express it. Timing is everything. Context is everything. A lion does not whimper before the fight. He does not explain his fear to the herd. He channels that energy. He controls it. And if he bleeds in private. This isn't because he is ashamed, but because he deeply understands the psychology of optics and the sacredness of his own inner world. You do not owe the world your insides, especially not before they have earned the right to see them. Let's be profoundly clear. True strength is not emotional numbness. It is emotional control. It is the man who can feel everything, the rage, the fear, the doubt, but still command himself. That is a man others fear and follow. But the one who collapses into his feelings, who makes them everyone else's burden, he is not respected, he is pitied. And there is a quiet, simmering contempt that always accompanies pity. You won't always hear it in their words, but you will feel it in the way people pull away from you, in the way their eyes scan past you, in the way your name slowly fades from their conversations. They will not tell you that you've lost your value. They will simply act as if you never had it. So now, you begin to see the true architecture of your own security. It is not built on grand, dramatic mistakes. It is built, or eroded, in these tiny, recurring habits. The unthinking pause before speaking, the laugh that doesn't quite match the tone, the desperate need for nods, the overexposed heart. All of them are signs, all of them are tells, and the world reads them like a master gambler reads a nervous hand. The fifth mistake is perhaps the most tragic in its silent power, and it is this: breaking eye contact too soon. It seems so minor, doesn't it? A simple glance away, a downward flick of the eyes, a nervous blink when tension rises in a conversation. But make no mistake, your eyes are declarations. They are the windows through which your soul announces its presence and its power. Insecure men look away. They look away because, on a deep, subconscious level, they are afraid their gaze will be challenged, or worse, that it will be seen through. They believe their eyes are a window into their weakness, and so they rush to close the blinds, hoping no one notices the trembling inside. But what they fail to see is the profound truth of this energetic exchange. The moment they avert their gaze, they transfer power. They cede their ground. To hold someone's eye contact is to say, without a single word, "I see you, and I am unafraid of being seen." This is not an act of aggression, it is an act of ownership. It is ownership of your space, ownership of your intent, ownership of your very existence in that moment. When you cannot hold another's gaze, especially in moments of discomfort or disagreement, you are signaling a fundamental fragility. You are telling them, wordlessly, that they are more certain, more grounded, more dominant. And people remember. They remember how you looked at them, or how you didn't, long after your words have faded from memory. Your eyes remain stamped on their memory. Did you flinch, or did you hold? That single, fleeting moment defines more than most men will ever realize. There is a different kind of silence that true power commands. It is not the silence of fear, it is the silence of certainty. The man who holds his gaze does not need to explain his position. His steady presence does the work. His silence is a promise, not a threat. It doesn't react, it chooses. He never reveals his insecurities through frantic outbursts because he absorbs, he waits, he calculates. This leads us to the sixth corrosive habit: apologizing for things you are not truly sorry for. I don't mean the grand gestures of remorse after a genuine transgression. I mean the compulsive, knee-jerk apologies that are woven into the very fabric of everyday speech. Sorry, just one quick question. Sorry if I'm being annoying. Sorry to bother you. These are not genuine gestures of kindness or politeness. They are symptoms of a deep conditioning, a subconscious belief that your very presence is an inconvenience. Insecure men use apologies as padding, as a way to soften their existence, to make themselves smaller before they even take up space. But understand this with divine clarity. The more you pre-apologize for your presence, the more you train others to see you as an inconvenience. You are telling the world, I expect to be rejected, so let me shrink first and save you the trouble. But power does not shrink. Power does not ask permission to exist. It stands, it speaks, it moves, and it does so without the constant draining need to be forgiven for its own shadow. If you have truly done something wrong, own it with the full weight of your being. If not, stop bleeding apologies for the simple crime of existing. Every unwarranted sorry costs you a piece of your authority, and once authority is eroded, your influence dies a quiet death in its sleep. These two habits together, dodging the gaze and defaulting to apology, are a potent cocktail of self-sabotage. They erode your foundation. They may seem harmless, even polite, but at their core, they are confessions. You are confessing to a lack of belief in your own right to be here. You are confessing to an unspoken guilt about your own strength, and the world, in its unflinching honesty, obliges you. It steps over you, around you, and past you, until you become a ghost in the very rooms you once hoped to conquer. Now let us sharpen the blade even further, and cut to the heart of the seventh mistake that broadcasts insecurity to the cosmos, trying too hard to be liked. You can feel this energy in a person's tone. It's the agreeable, over-accommodating rhythm that seeks to smooth over every possible point of friction. You can see it in their gestures, the eager nods, the excessive compliments, the frantic, desperate need to fill every silence with a performance of kindness. But here is the bitter, universal truth. The more you desperately chase likability, the less respect you will ever command. People may smile at you, they may even tell you how sweet or nice you are, but deep down, in the place where true power is assessed, they do not trust a man who needs their approval like he needs air. And why is this so? It is because neediness is fundamentally dishonest. The desire to be liked inevitably twists your behavior into something inauthentic. You say what pleases. You hide what confronts. You tailor your truth to fit the room. And eventually, there is nothing of your true self left. Only a hollow reflection of what you think they want you to be. But people are not drawn to mirrors. They are drawn to men who can hold their own shape in any environment. They are drawn to the man who can be disliked without folding, the man who can be disagreed with and not flinch, because he is not performing. He is not campaigning. He is simply solid. He is rooted. And that which is rooted cannot be swayed by the fickle winds of public opinion. You see, the insecure man wants comfort above all else. He wants to be liked, approved of, and cuddled. But the powerful man, the man aligned with his soul's destiny, wants clarity. He wants truth, even if that truth is deeply uncomfortable. He wants respect, even if it costs him his popularity. He would rather be alone in his integrity than embraced in a crowd of his own self-betrayal. So, when you flinch in your gaze, when you bow in apology, when you desperately try to please, ask yourself, what am I trading for this fleeting sense of safety? Is it worth the slow, steady erosion of my own voice, of my own soul? This awareness brings us to the eighth and final mistake, a subtle yet devastating pattern, overcompensating through status signals. This is the loud, desperate performance of strength we began with. It's the bragging, the name-dropping, the flaunting of possessions or achievements. All of it is a desperate scream into the void, a cry of, I matter. You have seen this man. He is the one who weaves his accomplishments into every sentence. He turns every conversation into an arena to validate his own worth. But this is not power, it is panic. It is the deep, primal fear that if he does not constantly shout his own value, no one will ever see it. But the truth is the very opposite. The louder a man declares his worth, the more invisible it becomes to those around him, because true power does not need to declare itself, it demonstrates. True status is felt, not flaunted. It's in the profound stillness of a man who doesn't need to impress you. It is in the quiet confidence of someone who has everything to prove to himself, but absolutely nothing to explain to the world. And here is what most insecure men will never understand. The moment you try to prove you are above others, you are admitting that you feel you are beneath something. Your own doubt, your insatiable need for validation, becomes the very proof that you lack the substance you are trying so hard to project. And so, your performance becomes a confession. Your desperate attempt to display strength becomes the most undeniable evidence of your weakness. Let's be honest with ourselves in this moment. Insecurity isn't always loud, but it is always visible to those who know what to look for. You can try to hide it in wealth. You can try to bury it in charm. But the man who seeks approval through a performance of likability and status reveals one undeniable thing. He has not yet accepted himself. And because he hasn't, he is always performing. But performance can never build true connection. It cannot build trust. It only builds distance, because others can sense it. They can feel the frequency of inauthenticity. They sense that this man is not whole, that he is curated. And curated people are exhausting to be around. What's more, this obsession with being liked is dangerous to your spirit. It makes you pliable. You shift and bend to avoid conflict. You betray your own standards for a fleeting smile. You stay quiet when your soul screams for you to speak, just to avoid rejection. But silence is not always neutral. Sometimes, silence is cowardice. Sometimes, silence is surrender. And the man who surrenders too often becomes the one no one remembers, because he stood for nothing. His need to be liked erased everything that made him distinct. So, how do you break this soul-crushing cycle? The answer is both terrifying and liberating. You must be willing to disappoint. You must accept that not everyone will clap for your truth. You must accept that some will call you arrogant when you are simply being honest. You must accept that others will distance themselves when you stop flattering them. And when that happens, you must let it be. It is only when the wrong people walk away that the right ones find the space to enter. But to do this, you must be firm enough to endure the silence in between. This is the ultimate irony of power. The man who stops trying to be liked becomes magnetic, not because he is cold, but because he is grounded. He isn't trying to sell you something. He isn't tailoring his soul to fit your taste. He is offering what is real. And real is rare. Real is costly. Real is dangerous. But real is unforgettable. And unforgettable men are never insecure. They are deliberate, and their very presence leaves a residue of truth that no amount of flattery ever could. And that is what makes the next mistake so devastating. Explaining your jokes or opinions after they fall flat. You've seen it. Someone speaks with confidence, they drop a line meant to land, and when silence follows, a panic sets in. They rush to clarify, "I was just kidding." Or, "That came out wrong. I didn't mean it like that." In doing so, they unravel themselves completely, because the moment you feel the need to explain your intent after a moment of silence, you expose the fact that your confidence was conditional all along. Real confidence does not retreat when it is misunderstood. It holds. It lets the silence sit. It does not grovel for understanding. But the insecure man is terrified of being misread. He wants to be clear, yes, but more than that, he wants to be liked. And that singular want poisons him, because what you say is never as damaging as what you walk back. You are telling the room that your words are negotiable, that your voice folds under the slightest pressure of discomfort. But discomfort is the price of truth. If you cannot sit in it, you will always edit yourself to avoid it, and people will learn that your words have no backbone. The final mistake is seeking reassurance after making a decision. You finally act, you make a choice, and then immediately you look to others for confirmation. Was that okay? Do you think I handled that right? Maybe I should have said it differently. And just like that, you drain all the power from the decision you just made. Because every single time you ask for reassurance, you are implying uncertainty. And certainty is the very oxygen of leadership. If you cannot breathe your own choices without asking others for air, you will never hold true authority. People don't follow perfection, they follow conviction. And conviction is not the absence of doubt. It is the refusal to let doubt make your choices for you. So, when you move, move cleanly. Let others interpret. Let them question. Let them disagree. But do not let their response determine your posture, because when you move with second guessing, you might as well not move at all. You are broadcasting fragility disguised as humility. And there is nothing humble about a man who needs to be patted on the back after every single step. Together, these habits, the walking back of a statement and the post-action insecurity, undermine everything you are trying to build. They turn your powerful words into weak whispers and your decisive movements into ripples that never form waves. And here's the cruelest truth of all. The very people you seek reassurance from will begin to trust you less. Not because you aren't capable, but because you have trained them to see you as unsure. Your own anxiety becomes the narrative they believe about you. And once that belief forms, it becomes incredibly hard to reverse. You are no longer seen as a source of certainty, but as someone who always needs emotional spotters before lifting even the smallest weight. Let that sink into your soul. Your reputation is not built in grand gestures. It is built in these tiny, recurring leaks of uncertainty, a nervous laugh here, a backpedal there, a quick, "Was that okay?" after every move. It is like water dripping through solid stone. It may seem small and insignificant at the moment, but over time, it hollows out the very impression others have of you. And when a man's presence is hollow, no amount of charm, intellect, or wealth can ever fill it back up. Authority dies not in public failures, but in these private patterns. And the men who lose the most are often the ones who simply couldn't stop apologizing for who they are. So the challenge is this: when you speak, stand by it, even if it lands flat, even if someone frowns, even if a profound silence follows. Don't flinch. Let people sit with your truth. If it was wrong, you will know it, not because they didn't clap, but because you felt it later in your own soul. That's how true power refines itself, not by crowd approval, but by internal correction. And when you act, act with finality. Ask for feedback when it serves your growth, not when it serves your fear. There is a vast difference. One builds, the other begs. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be rooted. And rooted men do not explain the joke. They do not chase approval. They do not soften every move with a nervous smile. They trust that their truth has weight, and if it lands wrong, they learn and move on. But they never, ever apologize for existing in full. Because the moment you do, you teach the world to expect your collapse. And once they expect it, they stop listening when you speak. This brings us to the final, crucial mistake: the need to defend your reputation in every room. Insecure men are obsessed with perception. They monitor how they're seen with the nervous, hyper-aware energy of a prisoner watching the guard's footsteps. They are enslaved. The moment someone says something critical, even if it's subtle, they respond, "That's not true. You don't know the full story. Let me explain what really happened." What they don't realize is that every defense is a subtle admission that says, "I care what you think of me more than I care about what I know to be true." And that, my friend, is blood in the water. Because once you show the world that your identity depends on a public narrative, anyone can control you by simply shaping that narrative. All it takes is a rumor, a look, a question laced with sarcasm, and suddenly your divine energy is being spent defending, clarifying, and reacting. You are no longer leading, you are responding. And response is not power, it is submission in slow motion. Reputation is not protected by noise, it is protected by consistency. Let your actions do the talking. And when someone speaks against you, smile. Let them. A man who is whole does not scramble to stitch together every misunderstanding. He lets the silence burn, and in that fire, his name becomes sharper, not weaker. The ultimate mistake is masking your insecurity with aggression, the puffed chest, the raised voice, the cutting sarcasm meant to wound before being wounded. These are not signs of strength. They are flinches disguised as fists. A truly powerful man never needs to intimidate. He never needs to bark. His silence does the work. His presence makes the room shift. But the insecure man mistakes fear for respect. He believes volume equals command. He confuses compliance with loyalty. So he controls through tension, not influence, and in doing so, he builds fragile empires, relationships that last only as long as people are afraid of him. But fear is short-lived. Sooner or later, people either leave or retaliate. And what does he have then? Nothing but a reputation built on volatility, not virtue. True power is calm. It does not threaten, it promises. It does not react, it chooses. And it never reveals its insecurities through outbursts. It absorbs, it waits, it calculates. If you have been listening closely, you already know. Insecurity doesn't always look weak. Sometimes it looks loud. Sometimes it wears the costume of charm, of warmth, of confidence. But beneath the performance, the pattern reveals itself. Neediness, over-explanation, a fragile ego, a reassurance addiction, and approval worship. These are not random flaws. They are symptoms of a deeper truth. A man who has not yet built himself. A man who is still reacting to every room he enters. A man who has not anchored his identity deep enough to remain still when the waves crash. But now you know what to kill, not parts of your personality, but the habits that sabotage it. You don't need to become cold. You need to become clear. You don't need to become cruel. You need to become quiet. You don't need to manipulate others. You need to master yourself. And that mastery begins in the spaces between your reflexes, between the joke and the need to explain it, between the gaze and the urge to look away, between the silence and the itch to fill it. Power is not granted. It is not performed. It is remembered. Because the man who speaks once with full weight leaves more impact than the one who pleads for attention in every breath. Be the one they remember. Not because you were loud, but because you were undeniable. Not because you begged to be liked, but because you could be disliked without disappearing. That is the final victory over insecurity, to exist fully, calmly, and without apology. So now, the mirror is yours. Look close. Strip away the masks. And in the quiet that follows, ask yourself, which man have I been? The one who seeks to be seen, or the one who sees without fear? The answer is already in you. The next move determines everything else. If you've made it this far, it means something deep inside you has already shifted. A part of you is done performing, done leaking power, done begging to be seen through someone else's eyes. A part of you has already chosen the path of silence, of strength, of sovereignty. And maybe that scares you, because choosing yourself always does. It means giving up the comfort of being understood by everyone. It means walking away from people who only loved the version of you that played small. But here's the truth. Being accepted is worthless if the cost is abandoning who you really are. Real power begins the moment you stop editing your soul to fit their expectations. So I'll ask you right now, in this moment, are you willing to be misread, to be judged, to be called cold, arrogant, or difficult, simply because you chose to stop apologizing for your strength? Are you willing to lose what was built on fear, just to stand on something real? If this message spoke to the part of you that's done hiding, if it hit something deeper than words, then write in the comments, I choose my power. Let's see who's truly ready to burn the costume and step forward without the mask. And don't stop here. The next video will take you even further into the kind of clarity most people avoid their entire lives. Watch it. It matters more than you know. I'll meet you there.